Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy LastChanceFPS, or you call me Chance, and in this video, guys, I'm actually going to be switching up a little bit from my normal styled uploads. As you guys know, I usually like to upload either gameplay or even commentary styled videos, but like I said, I'm going to be switching up, and I actually decided to sit down and record myself filling out a 2019 NCAA college basketball tournament bracket. What's awesome is that this bracket has so many different possibilities of teams that could actually go on and win throughout the bracket, and millions of people fill out these brackets every single year, myself included. I've been doing this bracket for at least like 5 to 6 years now. I think the most I've ever gotten right, I want to say, is like 60%. Honestly, I really don't watch too much college basketball for the most part. I try to watch it occasionally, usually when it's like the best teams that match up. I try to watch those games. But for any of you guys that don't know, I'm actually a really big NBA fan and also NFL on the side as well. As a basketball fan, I try to watch college basketball as well as much as I possibly can. And I'm not going into this tournament completely blind. Like, I know who the good teams are, who's got the good players, who's got the lottery picks, or even just good players in general, who's got the good records for the most part. So I feel like I'm going in with at least some prior knowledge, but again, I still really don't know how well I'm going to do in this tournament, and I thought it would just be really cool to actually sit down and record myself filling out this bracket, and you never know, maybe I'll actually get every single bracket in this tournament correct, which has never been done before. Again, guys, I do want to quickly point out that I do apologize for the lack of uploads lately, but my university is almost complete for this course, so I have a lot more free time ahead of me, but I just wanted to switch it up from my normal gaming style videos and actually record something a little bit different in the sports realm of things. And yeah, guys, with all that being said, let's hop into the bracket. All right, guys, so hopping over onto my desktop. Sorry if the angle of my webcam is a little bit off because I usually have it set up when I do gaming style videos on my other monitor, but regardless, we're over here on my desktop with the bracket. And honestly, guys, like I said, I really don't watch too much college basketball for the most part. Like I said, I do watch a couple of like the better teams for the most part with the matchups, but honestly, I kind of went through all of these teams prior knowledge and just kind of figured out like who's got, you know, like some of the lottery picks that are actually good players that could possibly lead the team far into the bracket, as well as also some teams that actually have insane win streaks going into this and just overall matchups and stuff like this. But honestly, for the most part, I don't know anything about like 90% of the teams, so I'm just gonna pretty much just make a educated guess. So I think I'm gonna start off in the East and then go down to the West and then do the right side of the bracket. So starting off with the first matchup, Duke and then either one of these two teams. Obviously, Duke is one of the best teams in college basketball. They got 3 of the top like 10 recruits in the upcoming lottery pick. So I just have to go with Duke, man. I just think they're too much of a powerhouse. In terms of VCU and UFC, I actually looked into it and I just think UCF just has a overall better squad, even though the records are kind of similar. So I'm going to go with the slight upset at UFC. Moving down, I'm going to pick Mississippi State just because I really don't know much about Liberty, and honestly, I just really don't have too much faith in them, so I'm going to stick with Mississippi State. Virginia Tech and St. Louis, I'm just going to, again, have to go to Virginia Tech. I really don't know too much about St. Louis, and that's kind of going to be my main theme of this video, where if I really don't know too much about the school, or they don't have like an insane win streak going into this game, I'm just going to have to pick the better team. So I'm going to go with Virginia Tech. Next down, I'm going to go with Maryland over this Belmont/Temple. I think they're actually competing, so this game hasn't been settled yet, but again, I think Maryland is the better team. Next up, LSU and Yale. I actually thought about picking Yale for the upset, but I think I'm going to stick with my gut and pick LSU. And kind of a common theme I like to do throughout this bracket, and kind of what I've noticed over the years of doing this, is that I usually like to pick at least a handful, like maybe 4 to 5, maybe tops, first round upsets. And then in the second round, when there's only the 32 teams, I usually like to pick at least 1 or 2 upsets. That's the big thing with this tournament. So many upsets happen throughout the bracket. It's just absolutely insane. I feel like that's why no one's gotten a perfect bracket yet. And I actually watched a documentary, and I think the most that someone's gotten right is like 54 out of the 63 games, something insane like that. But even they mess up all the time. So honestly, getting this bracket perfect is by no means easy. But honestly, I have to pick occasional upsets here and there, which I will get into in the rest of this video. Next, Louisville, Minnesota. Again, this was really, really tough because Louisville seemed like a really good team. But again, I'm just going to stick with my gut. I'm going to pick the Minnesota with the update, or the upset. What am I saying? Update. Next up, finally, I got Michigan State and Bradley. I don't know nothing about Bradley. I'm just going to have to go Michigan State. I think Michigan State is one of the better teams in this tournament. So again, I'm just going to roll with them. I think I'm going to finish off these other games in the East. So again, back up to the top. I got Duke over UCF. I just think Duke is just way too talented going into this tournament. I will say the only way that Duke can possibly get upset in this tournament is if the other team just shoots some lights out, because Duke, I heard, has really bad three-point percentage, or I've seen them firsthand, and they're just not a really good three-point shooting team. So I think if the other team actually shoots lights out from the three-point line, I think Duke can definitely get eliminated early in the tournament. Next up, Mississippi State and Virginia Tech. Honestly, this was kind of tough, but I decided to stick with my gut and go Virginia Tech. I just thought they were the better team. Going back down, Maryland and LSU. I actually originally decided to pick LSU, but after some thought, I actually decided to stick with Maryland as, again, another upset in this part of the bracket. And then finally, between Minnesota and Michigan State. Again, Michigan State is way too talented, and I just think they're going to steamroll Minnesota. Going back up top, Duke and Virginia Tech. Again, Duke is just way too freaking good. I just think Virginia Tech doesn't have the talent to upset Duke, so I'm going to have to stick with Duke. And then again, Maryland and Michigan State. Maryland, again, I just think they don't have enough of a good roster to compete with Michigan State, so I'm just going to have to roll with the Spartans. And then finally, between this matchup, Duke and Michigan State, if this actually ends up happening, I am for sure going to watch this game. And I kind of hope it happens, because I think Michigan State will definitely give Duke a run for their money. But again, I'm going to stick with Duke. I just think they're too good of a team. Down to the West. For any of you guys that don't know, I actually am from Seattle. So both the Washington Huskies, which is actually the university I attend, as well as Gonzaga out east in Spokane, two hometown teams. I'm definitely going to be rooting for them in the tournament. And honestly, again, I have my bias. I'm going to have to roll with the Zags. Again, they're #1 seed, so obviously they're favored. But yeah, Gonzaga for sure. Next up, Syracuse and Baylor. This is really tough, but again, I'm going to have to pick the better team of Syracuse. Going down to Marquette and Murray State. And for any of you guys that don't follow me on Twitter, my favorite prospect going into this next upcoming NBA draft is going to be Ja Morant from Murray State. Murray State is by far my favorite team that I'm going to be rooting for this outside of my hometown team. And again, I just think Ja Morant is absolutely insane. He is my favorite player going into this upcoming draft. And I really think that Murray State could actually make a Cinderella type run in this tournament as only a 12 seed. So again, I'm going to have to roll with the Murray State over Marquette for the upset. I think they can definitely do it. And honestly, I also might go back and check, because I believe there's little info icons I could check to see in terms of who picked who and probabilities and whatnot. But for the sake of this video, I just want to get through this tournament, and maybe I'll do it for like the Final Four or something like that. Going up next, I have Florida State and Vermont. Now, honestly, I didn't notice, but Florida State is actually really, really underrated. They have a lot of big length on their team in terms of their players, and they're actually really good at shooting, apparently. I'm not sure if that's correct, but apparently Florida State's insane. So I'm going to have to go with them over Vermont, so no upset there. Next, Buffalo, and then the undecided games of these two. But honestly, regardless, I'm going to have to roll Buffalo in this. I think Buffalo is pretty damn good, in my opinion. Next up, Texas Tech and North Kentucky. Again, Texas Tech, I just think they have too much talent on their roster. They're just going to steamroll North Kentucky. Going down, I have Nevada and Florida. Again, I just think Nevada's really good. I think they also have like these twin brothers on the team that are apparently nasty. I've never seen them play, but I'm again just going to have to pick with the better seed in Nevada. And then finally, Michigan and Montana. Again, Michigan is just way too talented, so I'm going to have to roll with them. Next up, back up top, Gonzaga and Syracuse. Again, I'm going to have to roll with the Zags. I think they're way too talented. They should beat Syracuse, no problem. Murray State and Florida. Now, honestly, guys, this matchup, I've seen so many people pick Florida State, and a lot of people think that they're just going to steamroll Murray State. And honestly, guys, I'm going to stick with my gut, and I want the Cinderella run to happen. So I am picking the Murray State to beat Florida State. It's going to be really tough. I'm definitely going to watch this game 100%. And also, in terms of the probability, yeah, only 11% of people are picking Murray State if they actually match up with Florida State. So again, the luck on theirs is not on their side. But again, I'm going to pick the Cinderella run for Murray State. And I just love Ja Morant. He's just by far my favorite player to watch in college basketball. Going back down, Texas Tech and Buffalo. Texas Tech, again, just really, really good. I'm going to have to roll with them. They also have one of the top recruits. I believe his name is Culver. He's a smaller power forward, I believe. Really, really good. I just think that he will carry his team over Buffalo, no problem. And then back down to Nevada and Michigan. Again, Michigan is just way too talented. They should beat Nevada. Going back up here, unfortunately, I have to come to the realization that Gonzaga is just way too good of a team overall, and I think they will take out Murray State. As much as I would love to put Murray State in the Elite Eight, I just can't do it. I think the Sweet 16 is probably the farthest they could possibly get in this tournament. But if they somehow pull it off, if that matchup happens, that would just be absolutely insane. And then going back down, Michigan and Texas Tech. I think this is, again, a really good matchup. But again, I'm just going to have to pick with Michigan. I just think they're the better team. And then finally, between Michigan and Gonzaga, I'm going to have to go with my home team, the Zags. The number 1 seed with Rui Hachimura. I believe he's a lottery pick as well. I just think Gonzaga is definitely going to pull it off and go into the Final Four. Heading over to the South. Number 1, Virginia against G-Web. Virginia is insanely good. I think they should beat them, no problem. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. This was kind of tough. I think this is a really good first round matchup. But again, I'm going to have to stick with my gut. I'm going to pick Ole Miss. I just think they had the better team. And honestly, I just think Oklahoma just kind of, I don't know, they really didn't have anything impressive to me. Even though they've had prior really good runs. Like I remember Trae Young last year, they just did really, really well in the tournament. But again, I'm just going to have to pick Ole Miss. I like to stick with my gut on these picks, at least the 50-50 ones for the most part. Wisconsin and Oregon, I think this is actually one of my upsets that I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick Oregon. Oregon actually beat my UW Huskies in the Pac-12 tournament, which was just really hard to watch. They completely killed us on both ends of the floor. And Oregon has like an 11 or 10 win streak going into this tournament or something like that. Maybe 8 the least. But they're on a really long win streak right now. And I think they're definitely underrated. I think they could definitely beat Wisconsin in this matchup for sure. And then Kansas and UC Irvine. I really don't know too much about UC Irvine, so I'm just going to have to pick Kansas State for that matchup. Next up, Villanova and St. Mary's. Again, I'm just going to have to roll with Villanova. I just think they're the better team. Purdue and Old Dominion. I don't know who that is. I'm just going to have to roll with Purdue. Sorry if I totally butchered that name. I don't even know who they are. I apologize. Next up, Cincinnati and Iowa. Again, I'm going to have to stick with Cincinnati, the better seeded team. And then finally, we got Tennessee and Colgate. Tennessee is an insanely good team, so I'm going to have to definitely roll with them. Going back up top, Virginia and Ole Miss. Again, Virginia, just way too much talent on the floor. And then Kansas and Oregon. I'm going to stick with Kansas. I just think they're the better team. And I just think Oregon is just going to, probably not win that game. That's just my guess. Next up, we got Villanova and Purdue. Again, this was actually really, really tough, and I kind of went both ways on this, but I'm going to stick with my gut. I'm going to go with Purdue. I just think they're the better team. They have the better seed, so why not? And then finally, we got Tennessee and Cincinnati, and I'm going to go with Tennessee. I just think they're way too talented of a team. And then going back up top, we got Virginia and Kansas State. Again, Virginia, I just think they're insanely good. They're like 29-3 going into this tournament. They're definitely one of the best teams in college basketball, no question. And then Tennessee, for sure, gonna pick them. And then honestly, guys, this was really, really tough, the number 1 and number 2 seed. I kind of went back and forth with this. I saw a lot of people picking Tennessee to win, but they actually lost in their tournament championship to Auburn, I believe, which was kind of an upset. So honestly, I thought that was a little concerning. So a lot of people were still sticking with Tennessee, but because they lost, I'm going to have to go with Virginia and just stick with my gut. So that's what I'm going to pick. And you guys kind of seen a trend. I think once you get to like the Elite Eight, I think usually the number 1 or at least the number 2 seed makes it. Very rarely do the like 3 through like 8 seeds make it. So I just have a lot of 1 seeds, but again, I just think they're definitely deserving of the number 1 seed. So that's what I'm going to stick with. Next up down here, we got in the Midwest, we got North Carolina and Iona. Don't know who that is. North Carolina, no problem. Utah State and Washington. Now, guys, I have so much bias on this, so I'm going to roll with Washington. I think they have the talent to win against them. Honestly, I have not seen any Utah State games, so I have no idea what they're about. But for that fact, I'm going to have to roll with my UW Huskies. Next up, we got Auburn and North Mexico State. Again, Auburn won their ACC or whatever league they're in, so I'm going to stick with them. Next up, we got Kansas and Northeastern. Again, Kansas, I think, is just going to beat them, no problem. Iowa State and Ohio State. Again, this was kind of tough, so I decided to stick with my gut and do Iowa State. I really don't know who's on Ohio State's rosters, so I really don't have too much reference in that, so I'm just going to go with the better team. Houston and Georgia State. Houston, just higher seed, why not? Wofford and Seton Hall. This was kind of tough. I saw a lot of people pick Seton Hall, but I'm going to pick Wofford with the upset. They have like a 25 or 30 win streak going into this tournament, which is just absolutely insane. So I don't know if their league is that bad or if they're actually that good. I don't know. We'll have to see. I picked Wofford to beat them. Even though they're the higher seed, apparently Seton Hall is, to a lot of people's bracket, is the better team. So I'm still going to pick the upset for that. Wofford going to get by in the first round. And then Kentucky and then Abilene Church. I don't know who that is. CHR. I don't know. But Kentucky, I'm going to pick for them with that. Back up top, North Carolina and Washington. Honestly, if this matchup happens, we are going to get absolutely killed. As much as I would love to see the Huskies go farther in the bracket, I just don't see it happening in a million years. North Carolina is way too talented, so I'm going to pick North Carolina. Next up, we got Auburn and Kansas. Again, this was really, really tough, but because Auburn won, I'm going to stick with Auburn. I think it says a lot that they actually won their division, so I think that definitely is a plus for them. Iowa State and Houston. Honestly, I really don't know too much about them, so I'm just going to go with the better team in Houston. And then Wofford and Kentucky. I just think Kentucky is way too talented of a team. They should beat Wofford, no problem. North Carolina and Auburn, I think, should be a pretty good game. But again, North Carolina is just way too talented, so I'm going to stick with them. And then going back down, we got Houston and Kentucky. And again, Kentucky I got for them. And then between North Carolina and Kentucky, I saw a lot of people rock with Kentucky with the upset. But again, I think North Carolina has just proved way too much to me. I've seen a couple of their games, especially against Duke this year. So I think North Carolina is definitely going to make it. And then wrapping up in our final four, all of them is the 1 seed. Yes, I know. Wow, Chance, you really know so much about college basketball. I think, if anything, this is the year that all the number 1 seeds make it. I think for sure Duke is going to make it. I think Virginia and Tennessee is definitely a toss-up. I think North Carolina and Kentucky can definitely swap. But I think Gonzaga and Duke, in my opinion, are for sure going to be the final, or 2 of the final 4s. And then I guess you could swap Virginia and North Carolina. But honestly, this is just what I'm going to go with my gut feeling. So this is who I have in my final 4. Duke versus Gonzaga. As much as I would love to pick Gonzaga, I just think Duke is just insane of a team. Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish. They just have the entire package of a team. And honestly, if Zion Williamson does even remotely good, I just think they're pretty much unstoppable for the most part. So I'm going to rock with Duke over Gonzaga, even though that game's going to be absolutely insane. And then Virginia and North Carolina, I think, is going to sway in North Carolina's favor. I just think Virginia, honestly, is just, they don't really have as good of a team, in my opinion, compared to North Carolina. I've seen plenty of North Carolina this year, especially against Duke, like I said. So what is this, like the 4th or 5th time that Duke and North Carolina are going to play each other in the championship? This is my prediction. And again, guys, I don't know if you guys have already told, but I am a really big believer in Duke. I just think Duke's going to win it all. I just think, again, they have way too much talent. And really the only way I see them losing in this tournament is if the other team shoots some lights out. I think if they get past Michigan State and play someone like Gonzaga or Michigan in the Final Four, I think Duke is definitely going to win. If they lose to Michigan State, I think that's really the only place I see them losing in the Elite Eight in terms of an upset. But if they make it into the Final Four and even the championship, I think they're definitely going to bring it home. And I'm no Duke fan by no means. And usually Duke is always competing every single year, but I think this roster that they've put together in recruiting class is just absolutely insane. So honestly, guys, this is my bracket. Yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, a little bit of a change up. I'm gonna get back into the gaming videos, but I just thought since this is actually a relevant topic, why not actually do this type of video? But like I said, if you guys wanted to enjoy this video, definitely drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for future videos like this, as well as also my standard gaming videos. Click the bell notification if you guys haven't already to never miss a future video here on my channel. Follow my Twitch and all of my social medias that will have linked down in the description down below. Until next time, I will catch you guys in the next video.